At easternslopes.com, we love getting out in the woods in the wintertime. In fact, we in some ways love it more than in the summertime because in the winter you don't sweat as much, and when you're done you can go inside, have a nice cup of cocoa, have a nice glass of wine, mulled wine, whatever you'd like to have. And it's just great being out here and enjoying the snow and enjoying the beautiful clear skies. That's another advantage of the winter and getting out, is the skies are fantastic. But just as in the summertime, we use trekking poles and we recommend trekking poles. And if anything, they're more important in the winter than they are in the summer, because the summer your footing is generally more consistent. In the winter, you don't know whether the next thing you're going to do is step into a hole and stumble and use that pole to keep yourself from tumbling. And of course, tumbling in the summertime hurts more, but tumbling in the wintertime can lead to getting stuck in a snow hole and snow down your back and all those fun things. And yeah, it's better to just stay upright. But what you use for poles in the wintertime might be different than what you use for poles in the summertime. So what we're going to do now is just take a few minutes and talk about what makes a good winter pole and some things that you might want to consider as you are getting ready to go out there and enjoy the winter. Now, the typical summer pole, hang on if I can get those things set aside for the moment. This one happens to be a Compradel, is, again, typical basic grip, basic locking mechanism, and a basket. First thing you want to look at when it comes to the winter time is the baskets. Now, this is a summer basket. Let's put that right up there where you can see it. And you can see it's pretty small. It's designed to keep you from falling into mud, you know, your pole from sinking down too much into that, but really isn't designed for going deep in snow or anything along those lines. By comparison, I'll grab this one first. This is a Gable Italian pole. If you look at the two and you compare them, you can see that this pole obviously has a lot more surface area and just covers a lot more space, so that when you plant that into the snow, it will obviously not sink in as quickly. It'll act just basically like small snowshoes and help keep your pole from dropping all the way down in. And it makes a big difference. A pole like this, I'm not going to say it's useless in the wintertime, but if you're off out in the back country at all where the snow is a lot softer, instead of being on a prepared trail, then you need something like this. Now, the poles that you have, you may be able to buy, depending on the manufacturer, buy winter baskets for them. These baskets are usually removable. They can be a pain in the neck to remove, but they are removable. So if you want to continue to use your poles that you already have, just check with the manufacturer and see if you can replace the baskets and get a more appropriate snow basket. When you're looking to buy poles, many poles come with two baskets. I know that these actually came with both the summer and the winter baskets. This Lakey right here, which has a beautiful winter basket, did not come with both, but we do know and have bought the summer baskets for them. So pay attention to that. Second thing you want to take into account is the locking mechanism. The typical summer pole, like this, has an internal locking mechanism. And I'll just move this a little closer forward so you can see it. It's very slim. It's very, they're light, they're easy to use, you just twist and twist. But in the wintertime, there are two problems with them. The first problem is that you've got, depending on what you have for gloves, and particularly if your gloves get wet or snowy or icy, your hands will have a tendency to slip on the shaft. And when that happens, you can't tighten it up enough. So you've got the thing and you tighten it, and you go and put a lot of weight onto it and it collapses on you. Not a good situation. So that's one problem. The other problem is if you get snow and ice inside the locking mechanism, it can fail on you. And the way it typically fails is that you try and open it and try and shorten your poles. You can't do anything with them. That's obviously not the worst thing to have happen. It can be a pain in the neck again if you are trying to put those poles on your pack, you're trying to shorten them because you're side hilling, anything like that. But it's better than the alternative, which is having them fail in the unlocked position, which they also can do. If you're going to use a pole that has an internal locking mechanism, our recommendation is that you set the pole length when it's dry, when you've got good grip, and you make sure that you have your poles set well, and then later on If you are using them and they get wet, if you're in conditions where there's a lot of snow or a lot of rain, fog, whatever, keep them in that position. Don't shorten them for convenience unless you absolutely have to, because that's the thing that can make those locks then fail. Now, beyond those, the second type of locking mechanism is an external lock. And there's a number of manufacturers that use these. Probably the two best known are Black Diamond and Lakey. They're the two largest. But other people, Gable, Easton, there's a number of other companies out there now using them. And the way an external lock works is pretty simple. It's got a lock that's got, in fact, Black Diamond calls it a flick lock. You literally just flick it and close it. There are a number of advantages to these. First, you don't have to worry about your grip. You can actually, with a lot of these locks, work them without even using your fingers. I can take that and I can use the heel of my hand and I can pop it open and palm my hand to close it. So even when my dexterity isn't good because I'm cold, I can adjust my poles. And all the poles have the ability to adjust the tightness so that if there's any sense of sliding, you just tighten it. With this one, you can actually do it with your fingers or with a coin. Some other ones require a screwdriver. I can't imagine many of us going out there without a Leatherman or some multi-tool or something, so we've never had that problem yet where we weren't able to adjust them. But again, that's the Lakey. Very, very simple to use, very functional. The Gable, similar style. You can see that it's a little bit different, and this one does use a screw. So that one we need to have a tool to adjust. But all of these, years ago we had problems with these slipping and not being able to make them work correctly. Now we tighten these down. I don't think we've had a problem in a number of years with any of them. So it's a great solution. We actually recently ran across a hybrid, which is this company Exped, and they use a combination of an internal lock. With one nice touch on this, there's a detent for each 5 centimeters, so you just simply pop it until you feel it click, but you can use the space in between. And then, I hope you can see this on here, but you can see it's like if you've ever had a pop-up shelter or something where you adjusted with a little button you press. It's like that, except there are 2 of them, one on each side, and what it does is it makes it very easy to pop that down, close it down part way, and pop it back open again, and it comes back, of course, to the same length you would set with this locking mechanism. We found it to be very effective so far. We haven't had any problems, and it allows us to have a pole that we can shorten all the way down, but by the same token, if the conditions are bad, just pop that, and we have a pole that's roughly 2/3 or less of the length that we started with, but we don't have to worry about the connector not working again. So those are the locking mechanisms for you. The next thing to think about is the grip. Now, the basic grip, basic summer grip, is nice and short, fits your hand, it's light, there's no added weight to it. But when you're out in the wintertime, if you're backcountry skiing or if you're side hilling on snowshoes, you'll very often be in a situation where one pole is reaching down below you and one pole is up above you. And in that case, an extended grip is a big advantage. If you look again, here's the Exped again, and you can see here's the standard hand grip, but then there's this long grip here. So I can be headed up a hill and I'm going to go side hilling and this pole is going up higher above me. I just reach down. I don't have to stop and shorten the pole. I don't have to do anything like that. I just use the extended grip that way. Same thing. Here's the Lakey, and again you'll see as we come along here the regular grip and then the extension, and it makes it a lot easier to use it in the wintertime for those circumstances. It's also easier if you're doing a combination of, particularly when you're backcountry skiing and you're on skins and you're doing uphill and downhill on your skis without taking the skins off. You're climbing away like this and you get into going downhill through a tree section. You simply go, you take your hands out of the yeah, it's one of those names I can't come up with right now. Anyway, you take your hands out, so the pole won't catch and pull you aside if it gets caught on something. Shorten up, and it's very easy to use the poles going down through something. That's another advantage of that extended grip. So those are probably the biggest factors involved in choosing the correct backcountry winter pole. The basket, the locking mechanism, and the grip. One other thing also worth mentioning is you'll find if you look at pretty much any of our poles, grab these two, see this nice little bit of silver on here. You know, that right there, this right here, it's duct tape. It's nothing special, but there's probably, at a guess, 10 or 12 feet of duct tape on each of these. We always carry duct tape in our emergency kits, but for the winter time, having it on the pole, well, actually for the summertime as well, having it on our poles is really handy. It's easy to get hold of. We don't have to dig through anything to get at it. And you might think, well, what do I really need the duct tape for? Well, there's the simple things like you snag your coat on something and the down is coming out, slap a piece of duct tape on it, you're all set. But also things go wrong, like your snowshoe bindings fail. We've had a number of those happen over the years. And when that happens, you really aren't in great shape if you're 3 miles out in the middle of nowhere and your snowshoe binding fails. But if you have the duct tape, it's actually relatively easy to fix most things. You can either use the duct tape in a typical way, which is with the adhesive and rolling it around something, you know, strapping your foot right directly to the binding or to the snowshoe itself. But you can also take it and you can just tear it into several strips and braid it, and it becomes a string or a rope. And you can make it as long as you need to, and you can use that to replace. You can sometimes use it to replace boot laces. You can use it to replace a binding strap if the binding is otherwise working well. So different ways to use it. It's wonderful stuff. It's cheap. Replace it every year. The glue does dry out after a while, so if you put it on your pole, put it on the pole in the spring, use it through the year. When you're done in the wintertime, tear it off and put some fresh on for the spring. Best time to do it, to replace it, is right away in the spring, because after it's been out in the cold a lot, it's more likely to fail. So just quickly going over that again. The things to pay attention to on your pole. Your basket, making sure you have a basket that's appropriate for snow. Locking mechanism, making sure that your locking mechanism is easy for you to use, easy to adjust, and that you feel comfortable using it in cold weather and wet and miserable, with external lock being our favorite. And grip, making sure if you can that you have the extended grip, and that will give you a lot more flexibility and make your trips a lot easier. So, this is David Shedd for EasternSlopes.com, and we hope this has been useful for you, and I'm going to go and get a little bit more snowshoeing in now. Hope to see you out there. Now I got my hand straps on.